Hi Gaurav,
Hi Adit,
welcome to Sudeep Audio's channel.
thank you very much
Mm,
for patiently waiting for this and getting us to make this happen.
it's my pleasure, and
Pleasure.
you've been Gaurav, one of the oldest associates of SudeepAudio.com.
We go back many years,
Many
yes.
years, yes. In fact, almost since inception of the
Yeah,
website. And
yeah,
thank you so much for being a part of Sudeep Audio in many ways.
always.
You've
Yeah.
helped us, get orders from your colleagues, associates, etc. And thanks to Tapas to introduce us.
Yes, that's right. It goes back right there. So,
Right. So, Gaurav, you wear and don many hats. You're a musician, you're a singer, you're a santoor player,
that's right.
you're a programmer, arranger, you're a composer, and you're a sound engineer.
Yes.
And as a sound engineer, you've worked for years, and have groomed a lot of people
It's
under
been
you.
25 years now.
Wow.
Yes, that's right.
So, you've groomed a lot of people under you.
Yeah.
And you've also worked on location sound and
Front of house
front of
also,
house
live
also
sound.
is what you're doing now
Yeah.
as well.
Yes.
So I think we can go on for hours, but if you can make this journey, for the viewers as to
Yeah.
how this all began, so that they know that how can somebody do so many things together.
Well, Adit, I think just like you have a passion in what you're doing, and that's what when we first met I saw that you had a passion to take this forward, a very unconventional thing at that time in India. uh, the same, it's all about passion. When we started out, sound engineering didn't exist. There was audiography and there was uh, sound recordists. But over a period of time, we've begun to understand. Well, we already knew it because we believed in it, but others have begun to understand, especially the producers, the promoters, that there is more to sound than just recording. There's more to sound than just audiography, as we call it. It's all a question of design and having faith in the person who is actually capturing, which is more than, I would say, about 50% of the audiovisual experience. So it's very important to have that awareness in the people you are working with. And fortunately for me, when I started out, we had people who were involved in music, involved in sound, involved in filmmaking, involved in advertising. In all aspects, people who were very passionate about their work. Things about money obviously came later, but there was a lot of passion. So in short, basically it's all about how deeply you believe in your so-called department, if I may call it. And therefore from audiography, it has reached what we call sound design today. So it's imperative, if you're getting into a field such as sound design, that you understand music, that you understand what the whole thing is about in terms of the medium. So it's not important to be technically perfect. If you're technically perfect, then you're just an operator. It's like a person who is a good editor is not one who can operate FCP or who can operate Adobe Premiere Pro. That's not a good editor. A good editor is what, like it was in the olden days, where you can actually tell a story and cut it in such a way that it comes across much easier for the viewer. The same thing applies to sound. How can you visualize the sound as a design, as a medium of conveying an idea which a director may want to do? And that's the reason why it's very easy to move between the various departments of sound. You can be involved with tracking, you can be involved with mixing, you can be involved with mastering, but that's all the studio part. But you can also be involved with the same thing when you are doing live sound, for example. It's even more challenging because you don't get a chance to do another take. So it's very imperative that you understand that. So if you know your understanding of how a particular artist should sound, when to give reverb, when to give a certain length of reverb, is it a song about a mood, is it a ballad? So these are things which don't necessarily get taught in a school. These are things which you pick up with passion when you listen to more music, you work with more artists, you work with more musicians. So moving from any department is just a technical knowledge gain, which really is not something which takes long to do. You can do that in precisely 10 days or a month. You can learn how to use Pro Tools, or you can learn how to use a board like Digico when you're on, which is a very complex board to understand. But if you're working with digital boards today, analog in the past, these are all things of technology which you can change very fast. That should not be a guide of who's a better engineer, just somebody who can operate a particular mixer better. But can he mix the artist better? That is the issue which is there today. And that leaves very few people in the industry whom you can actually pick up and say they are true sound designers. And most are engineers or recording engineers. But to reach the design stage is where your difference will come out. When you get called in, not necessarily to actually operate, but to actually guide in how the entire show should be designed. Whether it's theater sound, whether it is live sound, whether it is sync sound on location, whether it is recording in the studio or dubbing, or whether it is mastering or mixing as we call it. They're all basically just different technology aspects. But what goes into it is pretty much the same. You're still dealing with mics, you're still dealing with recorders, you're still dealing with compressors, limiters, you're still dealing with all kind of mastering equipment, you're still dealing with noise removal, NR, what we call, is always there. So it's a great thing to be involved in all of these things, and it really, I have been fortunate, as you said, that I have been able to, over the period of years, work with people in all the aspects of sound production. In fact, I remember many years back when I did a shoot for Devin Kote was with UTV at that time. He was one of the head of UTVs and a very senior director in our industry. I know Devin from school days too, so I have a special regard and bonding for them as my senior. But it was very interesting. We did a project which was an overseas project, and at that time the production house from overseas was very zapped to find me being there on set recording sync sound of dialogues, coming back into the studio to actually track the music, then also handle the dubbing, then also handle the mixing, and finally also the mastering for television. They said that's very uncommon overseas because each person is a specialist in their own departments. But jugaad is something which Indians are very known for, so we've learned to be able to do everything as much as we can. So in short, that's pretty much the journey, and it's never ending. It's constantly growing because even when you're doing front of house, the artist changes, and the moment the artist changes, the whole design is different. You can't have the same design for, you know, what do we say? Who can we take an example? Let's say if you're doing Adnan Sami concert, and the same sound design for a Yanni concert will not be the same. They're very different. One is an instrumental with a little bit of voice and stuff, so the lushness of the strings is different, the orchestral size is different. And the best part is that I sing. So being involved as a singer, it helps to take things further because you understand how things should sound, how musicians need to be comfortable in a studio. That's the first thing which, as a sound technician, you have to make people comfortable around you. If they are scared of you or they find you as an irritating person, they will not want to work with you. So one of the reasons they enjoy my presence on set is because I am comfortable to work with. Yes, that doesn't mean that, you know, because the sound department very easily gets, you know, run over by everyone saying, "Ah, isko baad mein dub kar lenge." That should not happen. We should try and get the right take. So a level of seniority and sternness, yet being, you know, comfortable to make the artist comfortable, to know, okay, do you want reverb in your voice when you dub? Do you not want it? Do you go besura when you have voice reverb in your headphones? These are all things which don't get taught in a sound school. But when you intern with somebody or work with somebody, you will get to understand these things. And as a musician, it really helps you to get the right kind of sound. So it seems in short, but yes, I took a long time to say it, but it's basically, you know, it's a passion. You can see I love to talk about it. So it's there.
Thank you for that kind of concise yet very informative answer.
Guide, if it can
Guide,
be, yes, yeah.
you can. So, Gaurav, when you kind of are on the console, you know, when in a studio, and you find that today's artists, you know, who are young boys and girls who might not have been so well trained, they are depending a lot on technology. You know, okay, sir, Melodyne kar dijiye,
Yes.
auto tune kar dijiye.
Yes.
You know, that's the first thing. Why are you so panic कि आपके पास सब control थे, आप हमको tune में कर दीजिए?
Yeah.
Have you faced such situations, and how do you handle them if you do?
Well, fortunately, I have dealt with, over these years, obviously with the older group of artists who still believe in starting from the start if you make a mistake in the middle. I have dealt with tabla players who will play everything and not want to do one bar and then copy paste it. Yes, you're right. Today's generation believes in, taking as little effort as possible to do it. But they're also realizing now that what happens is that that may be fine in the studio, but they have to know their stuff when you're singing it live. What is happening is now there is more work performing live than it was doing a playback singing. So fortunately for people like us who believe that talent should not be shortchanged, they do need to be able to get their stuff right, because at the end of the day you have to sing it live too, and you will really fall flat if you don't. Of course, there is again a corollary to that, that is today people are just lip syncing their shows. Now there is another school of artists also who do more as a production and is just lip syncing, which really is a shame. But then I guess these are all things, which you will expect when it becomes an event rather than a concert. See, there's a big difference. In the past we used to have concerts where you went to listen to an artist for his performance. Today you're going to see a show more for the event itself, with the pyrotechnics, with the lights, with the flames, with the dancers on stage. There's so much activity and set design happening that at the end of it, I think it's more a show than actually the performance or the song. So, very often I do get into controversies for this, because I don't particularly subscribe to that. But I mean, as a ghazal singer, very often I'm told, "Ab -1 mein kyun nahi gaate hain?" I mean, then you haven't understood that this genre is about singing live, with the influence of musicians, interaction of the audience. It's not about singing to a track. So it is changing over time. Things are changing. Today, everything is going digital. The platforms are digital. Nobody wants to go to a show to listen or watch. But there are, fortunately, more and more people now have got bored of that. So now slowly people want to go for the experience. So as now people have stopped downloading films all the while, they want to go to a cinema hall to watch it. Fortunately, that bubble is still alive. It didn't burst when people said, "Arey, people will only download." But since the whole multi-cinema complex thing came up, multiplex concept came up, people do go, and now it's in cinema. Watching is an experience. Expensive, no doubt, but it's an experience. So the downloads will still happen, but at least the market is still there. So similarly, we are hoping that even in music, there was a phase where everything was a production. But today also there are occasions where people do want to just go for a concert and want to listen to the thing. So hopefully that will still prevent this whole degradation of an artist to using technology only. Because if you're using auto-tune beyond a point, then on stage obviously you will sound besura, and then the audience knows straight away. Everyone's becoming intelligent. And everything is now, one experience like that is all over the net, it's all over the press, and everyone's talking about, hey, that guy doesn't know how to sing or she doesn't know how to sing. It's all one big hoax. So I think today it does require that the performers are learning how to perform. Yes, I agree that in a studio scenario, a lot of times time is a constraint, because time is money. So you often say, okay, theek hai, don't worry about it, we'll pitch correct it for the take, because a production is different from a live show. In a live show, there's so much more of energy. Pitch perfection is not necessary there. Even if it's slightly off, you won't even realize it, because everything else is, in the josh of everything, and maza aata usme. So they're two different ball games. So I think technology is helping to at least have a production which is perfect. There will always be artists who will, abuse the system, but then they won't go very far. At the end of the day, you still do need to have your talent, and it shows. As I keep saying, all these things open the first door, but to keep going ahead and going to the next doors, you need to have something in you, whatever it be. So if you want to take these shortcuts, you are doing it at your own peril, because you won't really go very far. But if you do work and get your things right, and you get your training right, you keep improving at every stage, that's great. So I think technology should be used to its benefit. I mean, things like looping and all that, who thought of in the past? I was just watching a video the other day of an artist, She's a one-woman thing, and she's got like all kinds of devices to loop and to play back, and she's adding. It's amazing how she starts with one pad and then she goes on to getting one, other instrument, then she opens one more, then she adds shaker, then she adds another instrument, then she picks up a flute and she plays, then she picks up a violin and she plays. So multi-talented, yeah, but they can pull off a full thing with one artist. It's a one-man show or a one-woman show kind of thing. Impressive. I mean, it's another genre, and I cannot keep up with the genres being invented. There's house, there's lounge, there is chill trap. I mean, where are we going? There's just so many genres. I just knew one rag, man. अभी राग में से ठुमरी होती थी, ghazal होती थी, and there was, छोटा ख्याल, बड़ा ख्याल. That was it. You had 4 movements or in a classical, Western classical performance. But now it's like, it's just going on. There's so many things. What's a drop? Things like drop. It's just, there's so many things which are happening. So I'm still learning. So if I can still learn now, I fail to understand why the next gen is not always in a mood to learn. If it's quick money, then you're not an artist. You're not getting in for, then you got in for another reason. So there will be such people, Aditya. I mean, that's, so it doesn't mean that we have to start looking, I don't subscribe to a lot of people who have this negativism about everything. Oh, everything is going bad, everything is going worse. Everything has to change and evolve, and from there we have to, take it and find the silver lining in the cloud there, So I respect talent, and I respect if you're trying to make do quickly, use technology for your benefit. But take the time out when you're free to keep developing. I keep meeting writers, I constantly improve my vocabulary, I constantly try and improve my shairi diction. I have writers who correct me, very senior, Razanji, and Ashk Saab, constantly correcting my pronunciation, constantly correcting my talaffuz, teaching me different syllables which didn't exist in Urdu earlier. It doesn't stop. I can never come across and say, yes, I have 3 albums out, so big deal. Khatm nahi hoti baat. So
Gaurav, you've, as a sound engineer, been in the industry, like you said, for 25 years. And there are a lot of your prodigies, I can call, or students.
Yes, so really gone ahead. Yes.
Correct. So, how have your interactions been with them? How do they kind of meet up? Do you all meet up?
Aditya, fortunately for me, I have always had gurus and people who guide, who have always shared. They've never held back advice. So I have met a lot of, as you rightly said, a lot of engineers in our industry who don't have the philosophy to train juniors, because they say, why do you train them? Because 6 months later they'll go and find another job, or they'll leave you and go. For me, it's been absolutely the opposite. My relationships have been so good with the students that I wouldn't say I have mentored. They are still talented, no doubt, in achieving what they have. Today they are heads of, audio departments in TV channels. They have their own recording studios. Some of them are into developing acoustic, paraphernalia. I keep getting called by them for their own projects. They will take me to give lectures on sound design for the radio channels. They'll take me for, developing sound projects which they are doing. I become their, figure of respect, when I'm presented forward, their projects go through. So the kind of respect I get when I meet, people in the industry, I meet up with people at all kinds of places who have even trained with me for like 2 weeks. I land up in a particular studio and I find that he's heading that studio. And he has so much of respect for me. And he said, I was excited that you were coming after so long. And here I was worried to go to that studio for the first time. Will they allow? Because a lot of studios have issues about outside engineers, especially the larger studios, which have very large and expensive equipment. It breaks the ice instantly to be welcomed there and to find that one of your students or people you interacted with over the period years, they are there. You don't necessarily need to teach someone as a student. You interact with somebody on a particular show who is the representative engineer of the vendor who's there for the sound. Even when I do front of house, it's nice to reconnect with them again, because they still have a regard for you, because it's a give and take. I never go in there like I'm the boss. I go in there as you're the boss. I'm just guiding to make sure that it has to work fine, to suggest to you changes which I think this should be done like, because I know that genre better. So I think it's a lovely feeling to have people that you have either mentored or interact with over the years. And I remember once reading, when I worked with Mr. Louis Banks, there was a lovely saying on his studio outside that be nice to the people on the way up, because you may meet the same people sometime when you're on your way down. So I think it's very important, to have that. And there, very often you meet a lot of these sayings you read somewhere and they leave an impact on you. I had another saying which really impacted me right through life, where I said, people keep saying, keep practicing till you get it right. But I read a lovely saying once which said, keep practicing till you don't get it wrong. It has to become so much a part of your second nature that bina soche samjhe that should just happen. That is called practice. Not practicing till you get it right. It's the next phase. Lovely thought. Yeah. I mean, it's like, so things like these which keep inspiring you. I had a dream someday, I've never achieved it as yet, is that if I have a recording studio which is large of my own, I would love to have all these kinds of sayings etched on the wall. Lots of these. I've collected a whole book of them. I keep writing them. Whenever I'm walking, I read something somewhere, just put it up, and I'd love to put them on the wall there. That hasn't happened. That's a dream. Maybe someday it will. So that's the way. Yes.
Without getting into too much detail, you've shared quite a lot.
It is a positive.
It's yeah, correct. We can go on cribbing about what's happening
Absolutely.
in the industry, and
Absolutely.
this is not right, that is not right. So Gaurav, over the last so many years, you have different experiences in different departments like we spoke. What is it that you would like to share to students of today, students of sound engineering, or those who have just kind of spent a few years in the industry? What is it that they should do? Like you said, one is sharing, but what else should they do so that they have a smooth and a nice career, plus they can raise the bar, kind of a thing?
See, I think the first step which I said earlier is that yes, you need to be technically as capable. So as fast as you can, cross that hurdle wherein you understand the concept of that particular science that you're doing. For example, if you are understanding how a compressor works, you should be able to adapt it to any device, whether it is a soft compressor, whether it's a hardware based compressor, whether it's on a live mixer, whether it's on a thing. So if you're going to be constantly confused with the theoretical part of your project and your knowledge, then it will be tougher to cross the next stage. So get yourself technologically, capable in terms of understanding what is involved in the technology. Then of course, every time you will grow, you'll be working with different kinds of boards. Like I've been fortunate when I do front of house, the manufacturers of the board sometimes call up and say that, sir, we would like you to spend some time with our board. I've been fortunate that they also have engineers who are like-minded like me, and so they are willing to share. I mean, first time I was working on a board in Delhi, it was a Digico board and I wasn't familiar. I was able to call up their engineer, their technicians, they came to help to be able to understand. So it's a respect that you have to build for yourself over the period of time. So when you get into it, as I said, learn to interact. It's an music and sound, or rather anything in filmmaking, is all about interaction. So there should be, try to inculcate a relationship between your directors, your relationship between your, if it's a film issue, then familiar with your camera department, your lighting department. It's not about egos. If you come in there and throw a tantrum, they're not going to cooperate. I've faced this a lot when I got into it. The first time I went into sync sound, I used to have major problems because the lighting people would turn around and say, I'm saying that HMI is squealing, I can't use it. They'll come to me and say, humko to nahi sunai de raha, aapko sunai de raha. And everyone will gang up against you because you are. So then I have learnt, I'll pull out my phone, I'll show them the frequency, ye hai, isko aap band karo. So you have to do it the right way rather than get angry and edgy, win the battle in other ways. If you're constantly going to be able to fight and compromise and be at loggerheads, you're not going to go very far. For example, there are times when you have to be particular about timing. Your artist, if he's not in timing, you have to know timing first to be able to tell that artist. So spend time in listening to different genres, appreciating different kinds of music, and get yourself technically capable very fast. Because the next part of your journey is where you're going to start learning what we call the, not the physical skills, but these are more, you know, non-physical, if I may use the word, that they are interactional skills. How do you interact with people? How do you get the department to be respected? How do you work faster with people? And that is the next level of training. As you work more with other musicians, music directors, directors, camera people, lighting departments, gaffers, when you work with. Today, I have built a rapport with a lot of people that they know if I am coming on set, the lighting department will have already got the right kind of equipment there. They will know that if Gaurav is coming, GC is coming, there has to be a certain kind of generator, there has to be a certain kind of light. They have to be placed far away so that this is, so I don't have to now say it, because my relationship has been so good with many of them that they know, okay, he is particular about his sound. But he will also compromise. Now, issue is, I'm not egg-headed about it, because if it's a complex situation and it's a problem where you'll not be able to get it, I'll say, okay, I'll take a call, I'll dub this line. Though this is not theirs. So these are things which, you know, become a little difficult to do if you do not get the right attitude. So skills, as quickly as you can, understand the various departments which are involved, and attitude. Attitude is the most important thing in this whole thing. If you will not have that, then you can still work. It's not that there are many people who are, you know, known to be, you know, very hardcore, whatever they are, whatever you may call them. And people still work with a lot of them. It's not that they don't have work. Some of the best people are like that. But that's just my view, that I think it works better if you have a rapport which they respect rather than do it out of fear. Yes, in some places, yes, it's better to have, I've learned the hard way that because I don't have that, you know, fearful, you know, respect, a lot of things get taken for granted. Then I have to be a little more, you know, disciplined in doing that. I don't know what's the right path in this, you know, I guess you're welcome to choose whichever one you think works for you. That doesn't work for me, that's the reason why I do it. But maybe that's why I have a lot more, you know, friends than few enemies, if I may use that word. So, that's it.
Excellent. Gaurav, it was lovely talking to you. In the second part, whenever we do it,
Lovely.
we'll capture the musical Gaurav that we know.
Aspect, yes. And as we said, we can keep speaking for a long time. But yes, hats off to you for taking this so far. It's brought the community much closer. You will be surprised how many people do know of you, and how many people know of the website, and of course the place to go to for. Yes, of course, I'm sure you'll have a lot of people who just go there to get the information and then do the, that's a typical Indian way of working, so there's nothing new in that.
And Gaurav, thank you for being a part of Sudeep Audio.
Always there, at a part and at the back, as we say, always a step behind. If you need, just look back, we're always there.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
See you soon.
Thank you.